Mr. Wilkinson, for joining me today. Really, really grateful. You've had a busy week, I understand. Where have you been?
Yes. I've been to Weymouth with Mark Meyer and Claire and the team down there. Went down
agency.
Monday night. Yeah, brilliant. Lovely place as well. I've been to the office before, so that was a bit different. So there for the day on Monday. Well, I went down Monday, met Mark for breakfast Tuesday morning, 7:30. Full day with the team there. I did get permission that I could be my normal self. I didn't have to turn the dial down, which was good. So that's good. I've been criticised before, Stephen, about being intense occasionally. So I do like to get pre-approval before I start, which is good. And then I left there on Tuesday night and drove up to see Mike Nettleton from Knockdighton. Met Mike for dinner in the evening. And then again, 7:30 in the morning, worked with Mike and the leadership team in the morning. And then we did a full session in the afternoon with the whole kind of management team, branch principals and the property managers and stuff. And you know what, right? It's funny, isn't it? Like I do class myself as a proactive person, but like when there's an urgent thing like we've got now, you know, certain situations mean that we can't do what we normally do. We couldn't get everybody in the same room because there's too many people. So it was the first time I did a live session with flip chart, you know, screen, slides, the whole shebang. There was sort of 12 people in the room, spaced out really well, big ballroom place. And then I took my iPad down and set up a Zoom call to run concurrently with the session. And there was another 12, 14 people on Zoom that were watching me, hearing me, and then hearing what was happening in the room. And they were able to contribute with questions as well. So it was an interactive session. So like, I know we're getting the details straight away, but like, it's really interesting how I thought I was super proactive, but I've never done that until I've been forced to do it. So the lesson for me there was like, oh, Pete, you think you're proactive, but like you could even be more proactive, you know? So I know you know Mike Nettleton. Mike has suggested we have a little house in Spain that I just build like a nice studio in Valencia and just do sessions from there. And I can drink more Rioja. I can still trade outside and then just come and do a blooming session via Zoom and interactive and then get back to the swimming pool. So I think I might do that, Stephen.
Well, I'll share something with you in a sec, and I'm going to introduce you, but I've got a few people that already switched on. So Tom McGee, I'm very excited for this. So thanks for joining us, Tom.
Tom,
and Andrea, good afternoon, listening in whilst working hard in Fife. Dawn Clark, hi Stephen, hi Pete, excellent day with Pete yesterday. Vicky, I think that's some Geordie speak she's come up with. So please like it, share it.
Is that Vicky B?
It is Vicky B.
Vicky B, yes.
So I'm going to share what Vicky B. I'm going to embarrass Vicky now and share in a second.
She's a star.
What Vicky said about you. I did something for the first time this week as well on Zoom. So I had about 66 people on the Zoom call, which I find very hard to engage.
Yes.
So I did polls, and it's the first time I've ever done polls, and that worked incredibly well. And the information that I found out through the polls, it got everybody engaged, and it worked brilliantly. So I would highly recommend anybody watching this today, please, to do polls. But here you go. So Vicky sent you the location heart. Ian White, Peter Wilkinson is a man everyone should learn from.
Mr. Vicky, White there, is he as well? That's good.
Yeah, Vicky B, miss your mate. Assad, PW, the man himself. Stephen Mayers, hi, glad I can make it. So thanks very much.
Brilliant.
So let's build you up a bit.
Oh, right, okay then.
So this is
I'm trying retired type, you know. I'm not really
this is exactly what I've heard. So this is from Vicky, so I'm going to embarrass you, Vicky, but thank you for sending this. Peter's incredible coach, mentor, and a phenomenal speaker. He impacted me greatly over the years and added so much value to our team and business. Couldn't speak any more highly of him and can't wait to watch him with me. Thank you. So that's lovely. Mark Myers speaks very highly about you. I was with Mike Nettleton this morning at 7 o'clock this morning.
Wow.
He said he's never come across somebody so disciplined. I've spoken to Assad this morning. He tells me a story that you have a stopwatch every day to go out to see how quickly you can get out your house.
Yeah.
So
I measure everything.
Okay, which is great. So we'll talk about what gets measured gets managed.
Yeah, absolutely.
For all the people watching now, and you're getting loads of love, which is fantastic. There's going to be a lot of people watching now or on replay that don't know who Pete Wilkinson is. So who are you, Mr. Magic Man? How have you impacted so many people's lives? Thank you so much for being a guest on the show. I'm really grateful and humbled that you're on here. I'll shut up and let you speak.
So the first thing, who am I? So do you know what? I don't take myself too seriously. If I had a full head of hair, I'd be devilishly good looking. I used to be, and now I'm not. I don't take myself too seriously. I'm someone who is passionate about helping people to be their best, and I really can't help helping people. So when you and I did the call, Stephen, you came across and explained that's where you're coming from, a place of sharing, a place of giving, and that just resonates with me. Going right back to sort of like early days, I've always been like what I would class myself as an SMI, which stands for severely motivated individual. So I've always really had a high level of motivation. I've always been on a mission of some sort, a plan and this sort of thing. And when I was at school, I used to get told off every day. And the reason why, I tell you why I'm Pete Wilkinson, not Peter Wilkinson, is because at school, I used to get told off every day for two things. The first was I was told off for not sitting still, having too much energy. And the second thing, I was told off for speaking. I always had an opinion. And now it took us a while to work it out that I've got a really nice standard of living from having lots of energy and speaking. So I just took a while to work it out, right? I should have been doing this from like a young age, But I am passionate. And I think, to be really cheesy, there's kind of two dates that really I've read about that's really important. The first day is the day you were born, and the second day is the day you realize why. And I just love, raising the energy in a team or a room or with an individual, and I love reading and then dissecting and then sharing and learning, and it's not really work, I mean, I work hard, I'm all over the place, and I'm traveling and all that and stuff and creating things, and I do believe in the creative mindset, not the competitive mindset. So I do have high standards for myself, but I do like to create, and I'm on a mission, and I just love it.
Brilliant. Fantastic. So how did you get into performance, speaker on the circuit? I mean, I came across you at Vistage, and Vistage, was, for me, that changed my life. I mean, listening to inspirational speakers like yourself on a monthly basis made a massive impact on me. So thank you. And Loretta's just said, "Hi, Pete Wilkinson."
Loretta.
Ha ha ha.
So I work for a big business in the Northeast. Well, my first job, and Ian, is Ian White on this call? Is he listening?
Ian White is, yes.
Yes, right. Well, he's a guy that likes to hustle as well, and he'll appreciate that I was skint years ago, and I thought what I'll do is, because where I live, there's lots of nursing homes and care homes, and it's a lot of coasts. So, a lot of people like to sit in these homes on the coast. I thought, right, what I'll do is, I'm skint, but I can talk, so I'll flog some towels. So I was 18-year-old. I'd got in the car, drove from where I live in the Northeast, near Newcastle, Sunderland. I drove down to Leeds, found a guy, bought loads of towels, filled a cart of the gunnels, drove back to the Northeast, sold the towels, went back to Leeds, bought more towels, and I did that for a bit, right? And that was great, because it was just like, shift your comfort zone. You got to get out there. You got to meet people. You got to build rapport really quickly. I probably, with hindsight, I'd have chose a different delivery vehicle because it was a Mini. And if anybody remembers the old original Minis, they were fairly small, so it probably wasn't very safe packing this car with like bath sheets and all that. So I've always been someone that's like gone out there and try to make things happen. I'm not really passive. And then I worked for a lot of years. I worked for an organization called Northern Electric, and they're a very big, like an energy PLC from the Northeast. And they, Steve, this was like years ago. I probably was, 26, 28. when I started there. So quite a while ago. And what they would do is they would realize the importance of being able to present. And if you were going to become like a senior manager or, go up the ladder, they got to the point where they were like, right, you need to learn to present. So they were running internal speaker competition in kind of like mid-90s, before really like it was a huge thing to have like motivational speakers and that sort of thing. What they wanted was anybody that could either lead a business unit or have a senior post within the business would have to present their team. So they'll put these competitions on. And my mother worked there, my ma, and she's like, go and do that, because she's like was quite firm and had high expectations of us and stuff like that. Man, she did once say that if I was a bar of chocolate, I'd lick myself to death. So I didn't know if that was a compliment or they was just taking the mick at the time. But like she put me in for this competition and I did it and I did well and all the rest of it. And then I started with Northern Electric, and then because I became a senior manager, they put me through my MBA, which was really good for me because I've always been a professional winger. I've always winged it. And then when I kind of had the skills of winging it with learning some of the leadership stuff, and this was an MBA, it was a tough thing. You know what it's like when you've got kids. I was married, 2 kids under 5, working about 60 hours a week, running a £30 million retail business with 30 out of town 30 stores, and doing an MBA. It was like a real slog for like 5 years. But what it did was it showed me, like, I'd had some of the speaking experience at Northern Electric, then I'd done the MBA, and then I ran my own business. And then I thought, what do I love doing? And like, I got to the point around 2008 thinking, I like retail at the time. I don't love it anymore, electrical retail. So I shifted and then made some mistakes, learned loads of lessons, read loads of books, studied loads. And then I began coaching and mentoring people, started with Vistage.
Yeah.
And the first gig with them was 2013. And going back to the point about being a winger, I thought, you know what, I can speak, I enjoy it. But like, if I learn to do it properly, I could probably be pretty good. And I did feel that, So I believe in training and coaching and mentoring and that. So I got some mentoring, got some coaching, and started with Vistage in 2013. And I've been an outperformer, which is where your average scores above 90% for content and delivery for an entire year. I've done that for the last 6-7 years, which is great. And I've won 10 awards in the last 6 years. And the reason I'm sharing it is because like there'll be people watching this or listening to this, and like you might have a natural ability and that'll take you so far. But I think you've got to get structure. I think you've got to learn. You've got to be open. There's a book about building a network by a guy called Keith Ferrazzi called Never Eat Alone. And one of his chapters is find mentors, find mentees, repeat. So you should always be mentoring someone and you should always be mentored. That's his concept. So I get the idea of that, So that brings me right up to date where I am now, which is now launched Reclaro, our software business. That's my main focus, to build this business for 5 years and see how far we can do with that. We got some customers in that, which is great. Learning loads, challenging, comfort zone shifts again. But I'm loving it. I'm learning all the time, So that's who I am. Slightly intense, But I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to show somebody because Vicky and Assad's here, and they need to see this because this is just so they know that I'm keep progressing since I've seen them. So what we'll have here, this is my new watch, which is the Time Watch, my new Garmin. And if you can see that, can you read that, Stephen?
I can see 52.
Right, so 52 is my VO2 mark. Can you see the word underneath 52?
No.
What's the word underneath 52? Can you read it?
I can't.
Superior.
Sorry?
And then superior, right?
Yeah.
Can you read my fitness age? Oh, hang on, it's gone off, man. Can you read my fitness age?
Yeah, it's 20.
Which is superb, isn't it? I mean, Vicky's going to love that cheese thinking, flipping extras, right? So Assad needs to get his finger out because I don't know that his fitness age is 20 at the moment. Mine is because it's written down there on the Garmin, So
my question for Assad and Vicky: do you take up Peter's challenge of getting your fitness age down to below 20? Because you cannot let Pete Wilkinson beat you.
Now, if you can say to Vicky, after this, I'll send her a text to what Shazza said when I showed her that. I can't share it on this call because it's something that would need to be, what's the word, tempered, and it would need to be filtered. So I'll send it to Vicky separately after this call.
Here you go. So I just want to go through some of the comments, and then I want to unpick everything that you said there, Pete. So Ian White said, just to be clear, he's never sold towels. Tom McGee
he hasn't, but he hustled. He's a hustler. That's what I meant, man. Oh, he hasn't sold towels. He's a professional, but he's hustled.
Tom McGee said, not yet, but there's always a way.
Yeah, of course.
Ross, who you met yesterday, he's a good man. Excellent day with him and our senior staff and leadership team yesterday. Stephen, mistakes are the way forward. You're not human if you don't make them. Guy, thanks for joining us. Some great advice. Pete's a beast. And from Assad, and Assad says, I've got no chance. I'm sure Pete would say to you, Assad, mindset's very important.
Yes. Well, I'm on a mission with that. So, and I'll tell you something very briefly about Mr. White. We did a session once with location in London. It was in Highbury, some trendy studio place. And I did this session, and what I was really impressed with Ian, and this is just being totally honest, is that in that session, there might have been, 10, 12 of us there. Ian made more notes than anybody else. And he knows this stuff that I talk about. He's lived and breathed it. He does it. He can do it, But I thought that was really impressive. And that lesson to me was like, you've really got to keep being a sponge and just keep learning and being open to being challenged and growing. And I thought that was really good. So well done, Mr. White, for that.
Yeah, so Ian's written, my fitness age would destroy me. And Stephen's written, my fitness age isn't even 20 and I'm only 29.
All right, okay then.
Hi, David Spackman. Thanks very much for joining. So let's unpack some of the things that you said. And, obviously you work with some of the top people and top agents in the country. I know in your LinkedIn profile, you talk about three things: being more productive, improving accountability, and better alignment. So, one of the good friends of mine, Spencer Lawrence, I don't know if you come across Spencer at Paramount. Spencer had a little dig at me this week because he said, every time you have a guest on, they always talk about people being busy. He said, I hate people talking about busy. Can you start making sure your guests talk about being productive?
All right.
So how can you get your team and yourself to be more productive?
For me, it starts with focusing on being effective, not efficient. So I think a lot of people confuse the two. And for me, effectiveness is doing things right. Sorry, efficiency is doing things right. Effectiveness is doing the right things. So what I mean by that is that it's very easy to be busy, to do stuff, to be really efficient at checking email, really efficient at putting off that report, really efficient at having excuses why you cannot make 50 outbound calls or whatever it might be. So the first stage for me is to become more effective. And what that means is working out what I call my HVAs, my high value activities, and that for the business as well. And it is to try and get the day to be more around high value activities than just stuff. And the phrase I like to use is moving the dial. We've just got to make sure things move the dial. Like, are you doing something that's just going to make you feel a little bit better because you can tick it off a blooming list? Or is it going to move the dial? So I think we have to become focused more on being effective, not efficient, to get more productive, Measurement's very, very important. So I like to measure lots of things, which helps me to become more productive. We're joking with the VO2 max there, but, the watch I've got, I was 50 on August the 18th, so it was a present to myself. And it's because I've always liked training and stuff, but I want to go to the next level. So linking with productivity is, what are you measuring? Are you measuring the right things? So like I'm very keen on measuring the right things, whether it's nutrition, whether it's exercise, VO2 max, sleep, stress, resting heart rate variability. All that's to do with the idea of me being in a good physical state to perform productively. Like I couldn't have done 13 hours training and 2 back-to-back 14, 15-hour days of presenting with people in lunches and dinners and all that stuff. If I wasn't fit, couldn't do it, you know? So for me, it starts with being more effective.
Okay,
and
so
to be more effective, you need to build habits. It comes down to getting some bloody good habits, what I call the power habits.
Okay,
So you've got to build those.
So you work with loads of estate agents, very successful estate agents. So for people watching here, what are the things you talk about measurement? What are the things that the agents here should be measuring and looking at that's going to make them more effective?
See, yesterday we were doing this and we were talking about the concept of like one number. And the idea behind the one number methodology is like, we have got lots of things to measure and we've got KPIs. I get all of that. I think if you can find out like a major number, whatever that might be, in the past, we've talked about, you know, number of outbound calls, number of MAs, what's your conversion number, what's your fee. Still surprises me the range of fees in this country. Like how some people like say they're great at selling, but they're flipping getting 0.5s and 6s. It's like, that's not flipping selling, that's serving, right? You know, that's a separate. Don't get me down that route. But so for me, like I like the teams to have a number, and each person in the team should have their master number, whatever it might be. So it could be number of I don't know, number of mortgage referrals. That could be the number. It could be number of deals done. It could be number of landlord outreaches. It could be whatever. But the concept is that they should have a number one number. I like them to have something. So like in my own team in Reclaro, Zoe, her number one number is the number of demos she generates. Tim's the back-end dev guy. His number one number of current active users on the system. My number one number, monthly recurring revenue. So although we've got all loads of things to do, the accountability and the productivity levels are measured against how you're doing with your number one number. There's lots of KPIs. There always is. Lots of different lead measures rather than the lag. Get all of that. But focusing, drilling right the way down. So I think that's what we should do. We should do more of. We were talking about that yesterday, whatever that might be with Knocked Out, you know. I'm going to share the numbers, but that's what we would look at. Is that side of things. The accountability is a huge piece of mine, Stephen. Oh, massive. I mean, we've had situations where, you know, I've been in teams, not recently, luckily, but in the past, where there's just to let people get off the hook, you know? It's like, what's that about? I'm very, very keen on a very simple way to be assertive with someone when you're managing them. It's 3 stages, really. The first stage is just to sort of state the facts. And I think when you state the situation with facts, you know, you can't go anywhere. Like you said, you'd make 50 outbound calls. You said you'd be doing, I don't know, prospecting for 90 minutes or an hour or something like that. You deal with the facts. And then stage 2 is to tell them the way it makes you feel. And I think you should build emotionally, because if you've got someone in your team that's letting you down, not doing what they say the thing they're going to do, I think you should really be honest and tell them how it makes you feel. And then the third and final step of this 3-stage process is to state the consequences. You know, people know this stuff. Anybody on here who's got kids, parent, if you're a parent, there's got to be a consequence. Like if you want your child to have nice manners and you just keep giving them things, they don't say thank you. If there's no consequence and you don't hold them accountable, they'll just bloody take it and not say thank you. It's something really simple, but it's the same principle. So for me, I think many people in business, especially agents, would be more successful if they were holding their team accountable to a set of personal standards that they document and say, this is the standard I'm going to live to or work to or whatever. It should be one of the same things, really. And then once they're documented, it's like agree the values. Like if the values in your business, like location, right? These guys, we just get shit done. That's what it is. We just get shit done. You know, if you don't value that and you want to come and mosey, Assad and Vicky have a mosey free zone, right? There's no donkeys. DFZ, #DFZ, donkey free zone, right? Because if you can't live to those values, they're like, we're going to get shit done here. We're not going to rush. but we're going to move at pace. If that's their values and somebody comes in and wants to mosey around and take the time and they also want to be professional. If your value is to be professional, being professional is do the thing you say you're going to do. When you say you're going to do it, whether you want to or not. Don't tell me you're professional and then you didn't do that thing, you didn't feel like it. Jeez, man, some of the guys watching this will not want to exercise sometimes. They don't feel like it, but you just do it, don't you? Because you connect to the outcome. So I think the accountability is a huge piece as well. And I think what we should be doing is talking about personal standards, personal values. This is what the business stands for. Do you align with those? Yes, I do. And accept, right? Accept that if we're going to be elite, which people want to be, if we want to be elite, it ain't bloody easy. Do you know what I mean? You've got to commit to this.
100%. So you've got people that potentially watching this that find it really challenging to maybe have those sort of conversations with their team.
Well, why? Right? You can be respectful. You can be assertive. You can. So let's you and I do it. And I go, Stephen, you know, you told me. I mean, look, some of these guys here would love Jim Rohn. You know, have you ever followed Jim Rohn?
Yeah, I've got his book in my office.
Brilliant, man. I love his sales management thing. He goes, sit down with Stephen, and he's been in the business for 2 weeks. He said he would make 50 calls a day. And I sit Stephen down and say, right, Stephen, you're going to make 50 calls a day. How are you getting on? And Stephen goes, well, the thing is, Pete. And then I reply and say, Stephen, I made this box really small so a number would fit and a story didn't, which I think's flipping brilliant, right? That's Jim Rohn, right? So for me, I think if you speak from the heart and you treat people with respect, it's okay to say, Stephen, you told me you'd make 50 calls. You have the resource to make 50 calls. You've got the time to make 50 calls. You haven't made 50 calls. That makes me feel really bad. What would you do if you were me and I was letting you down? How would you feel about it? And I leer on the flipping emotion, me. Leer it on. I feel let down. How would you feel? Okay. You know, I'm saying I'm going to pay at the end of the month. What if I didn't do that? I say I'm going to invest in your growth and get you in a course. What if I didn't do that? You've got to meet me halfway here. I love to help people, but they've got to meet me halfway, Stephen. You know? So for me, there's a great book called Crucial Conversations. You know, how to have those difficult conversations. And here's the thing, right? Because the way the mind works, having that difficult conversation often is built up all out of proportion. You go, oh, geez, if I talk to Steve, he's going to kick off. Or if he kicks off, he's not going to be out. And you go, no, man, think about your thinking. And often the conversations should be had sooner rather than later. The longer you leave it, the worse it's going to get. And the guy goes, and Stephen, I'm doing the live thing. And Stephen goes, Pete, I'm pleased having this conversation. I'm struggling. I need some help. Great. I'll help you, man. But like, have the conversation and speak with respect. You know, I'm going to shout and swear and bang tables and all that sort of stuff. But you can speak assertively, with confidence, with respect, and talk it out. And I think it's far better to address something sooner rather than later. Because it just festers. It just gets worse, doesn't it? You know?
I know, 100%, 100%. So what would the consequences be? Ultimately, the consequence would be they would lose their job. But what consequences would there be to get them to understand?
They have to do it.
They need to be doing the things that they should be doing.
Right, okay. I'm smirking because I was going to say something and I'm conscious this is being recorded and probably shared, so I might not. I'll think of something different to say. Years ago, Stephen, you and I would have had a drive in the Mondeo, and it would have been called a Mondeo conversation.
Yeah.
It would have been known about. We would have had a little drive in the car, and you'd come back, and there'd have been 2 bits of paper on my desk. The left-hand paper would say, I'm on the bus, and you'd sign that one. The right-hand paper would say, I realise that my career here will be cut short, and I'm going to make an alternative. And you would sign either the left paper or the right paper after the Mondeo conversation, right? Now we can't do that now, obviously, for obvious reasons. And I never, ever did that. I heard about it. Right, I've never done that.
Exactly what I thought.
Yeah, exactly. I think if you've got the process mapped out, so you do have to like follow a process. So it's like, you know, these are the standards, and like, have you been trained? Do you have the ability? Do you have the resource? You're asking to make loads of calls, but the computer keeps crashing all the time because the flipping CRM system you've got's rubbish and it prevents or whatever. So you're taking away all of that. But I do like to have a formalized performance management structure. So whether that's like a daily kit, keep in touch meeting, whether that's a weekly one-to-one, whether that's a monthly review, whether that's a quarterly analysis, 6-month appraisal, and an annual, detailed deep dive. And I have those things mapped out so people know where they're at. And then I also have, and have used it before, because obviously at Northern Electric, when I had 300 staff, I had 300 staff, but I had like managers and stuff. I didn't look after obviously everyone myself, but we had to have a structure. So like, I'll tell you something we used to do all the time. People don't do this. Return to work interviews. If you're off one day, for me, happens to be a Monday morning after the football's been on, I'm doing a return to work interview. And I'm going to ask how bad you were and why did you not come into work? And that's done every day. We did this with an engineering business in Sunderland, and the amount of lads that were off on a Monday after Sunderland had played football on a Sunday, they were off the Monday after the football was at the weekend. And as soon as we started doing return to work interviews and really drilling in deep with the return, but had it as a process, not do it when you remember it, not when you fancy it becomes a process. You'd be surprised how often then you see sickness levels reduce. So I think you should be documenting everything. And I like to write things down. Like I would have a little black book. I've got me, I've got my goal book here, which is hashtag GSD for 2020, get shit done. So if I had this little book, right, I'd be writing down something like, and I would do this, I would say, Stephen Brown, 1st of October, 13:01, took a phone call, handled it really well with a customer, right? I'd write that down, and I'd write 2 or 3 of those down. And I'd say, hey, Stephen, just end the week, quick catch in. On the 1st of October, you did really well with this. On the 1st, oh, it's brilliant there. And I'm putting deposits in our emotional bank account. Because then when you let me down with something, whatever that might be, the consequence is, the book comes out and says, because I've already put 3 or 4 deposits in, Stephen, I have to be honest with you, on the 1st of October at 1 o'clock, you took a phone call from a customer. I don't think you were living our values when you took that phone call. Or, the lead came through from Rightmove, and we agree how fast we'll jump on those leads. And it still surprises me when you do the flipping, when Peter Knight does his stuff and people just don't bloody respond to leads. It's like, what the hell's going on there? Like, but, and you didn't respond. So having it documented takes away some of the pain of like trying to remember stuff, but there should be a process. And you can follow the verbal warning, written warning, that sort of process. You can follow that. You shouldn't have to very often, as long as the expectations are clear. One thing that I think we should be doing, Stephen, are you okay for time with this?
Yeah, we're good, as long as you are.
Yeah, cool. Is a team charter. So a team charter, my opinion, is it should be 1 A4 sheet, on brand, PDF'd, with your logo at the top. It should start with your purpose as a business. This is what we exist to do, helping people build their dream homes or whatever it might be. It should then have your values as a business. I'm a big fan of having a smaller number rather than a larger number. And then you should think about your expectations document that sits on the bottom of that team charter. And what your expectations document is on the left-hand side, you'd say something like, this is what you could, so ours will say, this is what you can expect from Reclaro as your employer. And on the right-hand side, it says, this is what Reclaro expects from you as its employee. So what you end up with is a document at the very start of their journey, part of their induction, or part of the selection process, is a document that outlines just what it's like. And the purpose of that document during the recruitment process is to keep your business as a donkey-free zone, because donkeys will look at that and go, that looks a bit intense. Pete looks a bit demanding. Yes, we are, because we're going to get shit done. And if you come in and flip and mess about and think you're going to just move about at a slow pace, it ain't going to work. So I'd rather know that before and after. And then if you've got a problem, you can refer back to your team charter. And I know mine's put people off, and that's brilliant, because Zoe and Tim have had it and they've looked at it and gone, I want to work there. That's flipping, that's SES stuff, that. I want to be elite. And that's what it's like. So there's a few things there, but I think for me, being explicit rather than implicit, don't mosey about this stuff, be really explicit, and have your team chart and say, this is what do you want to join this team? Because if this is what you're looking for, we're here. If you think that's a bit too much, and mine talks about being a rare, responsible person. It talks about acting like an owner, behaving like a leader. It says that's what I expect. You know?
What does elite look like for you?
A what?
Elite.
Oh, elite. I thought you said elite. Elite. What does elite look like to me?
Yeah.
Elite to me, in business, or do you mean like personally, fitness-wise, or?
Well, let's talk about business, because there's business? Yeah.
So the funny thing about being elite is everybody wants to be elite, Steve, but they're not prepared to put the work in. So elite is, you know, when location won best estate agent of the year, that's elite. Now, even though there was probably stuff that Assad and Vicky still want to do and Ian wants to do for the next stage, right? They got pretty close, yeah? For me, one of the number one things with elite, and this will be echoed by some of the great agents on this call, is doing the basics really well, day in, day out, even if you don't flip and want to. And the funniest thing with like success in business is like what we're going to do, how many calls we're going to make, how many outreaches, how many hot buyers, how much time on the database, what are the basics? And let's just do that. The basics aren't being there, arriving after the customer or the vendor on a viewing. That's not elite, you know. Not having practiced, you know, the way you're gonna shake hands. Well, not shake hands now, but you know, introduce yourself or how you're going to be prepared. You know, that's not elite. So for me, it's working out your standards, your basics, and just start with just doing those day in, day out, every day. If somebody wants to go calorific deficit for 4 weeks and just move and train 6 days a week, getting plenty sleep, drinking plenty water, you're going to get fitter. It's not blooming rocket science. Just work out the basics. So for me, elite's ultimately around what are the basics, and let's just nail those. So you don't, because you know what happens with some of these agents, right? They think they're clever. They do well, right? They go, I'm getting clever now. I don't need to do that. I don't need to be knowing my hot buys as much as that. I can get by on making less calls and everything's cool. And then in 3 months' time, the flipping pipeline drops because Usain Bolt still runs with a flipping tire behind him. He doesn't get anybody else to do his press ups for him. He still flipping does the basics. And that's what you got to do. Simple as that. Ronaldo's elite. Watch the documentary on Ronaldo on Prime. He's elite. Flipping brilliant. The man's in prime condition. He's probably even fitter than me, to be honest with you. Possibly.
Really? No.
Well, I reckon if he put a 35-pound pack on, I'd beat him to the top of the hill. But I reckon running and sprinting is probably better. Like
discipline and being productive. So I remember when I tried to have a conversation with you, I couldn't get hold of you, and you called me the next day, and you said to me, Stephen, the reason why I wasn't able to speak to you, I put things in time blocks. So I'm incredibly focused, and my discipline is on what I'm going to work on. So it's lovely that you called. I'm really appreciative that you called, but in a nice way. I'm not going to get my shit done if I'm taking your call. So there's people. I wasn't being nasty,
mate. I was just being honest with you, you know.
I know, and that was very kind. Okay, but there's going to be a lot of people on here that get distracted. So let's take prospecting. Okay, so exactly what you said there. You know, what you do now is going to impact you in the next 60, 90 days if you don't prospect. But people will find a reason, an excuse why they can't prospect. Okay, or they're prospecting and then a notification comes in and goes, oh, that's exciting. That's an offer coming on the property. I better deal with that. Or hold on a second.
What comes in a notification?
The notification comes up on their email to say offer on this property. This person's called in or whatever. People are far too easily distracted, whether it's their phones, whether it's Facebooks. You're incredibly tunnel visioned and you're incredibly focused on what you do in those certain time blocks. So for everybody watching, what advice, what help can you give them to be that focus and discipline? I mean, everything you said about the water you take in, the food that you take in, the sleep, you know, it's regimented, it's disciplined. You know, as Asad said about how quickly you get out in the morning, disciplined, you've got to break that record. There's people in here thinking that's absolutely fantastic. You know, how can they just start?
I think, being honest, I think the start is, what is your purpose and what's the big picture? Like, I've got a vision, 5 years. I know where I want to be. I know how I want it to be. I know what it's going to feel like. I've got it written down. I have a process of thinking about that major outcome, right? I'm at home at the moment. This is the dining room, and Shazza has allowed some level of personalization because she's in charge of the whole house, right? But behind me here, I don't know if you're going to ask this, but I don't know if you can you see that? That is a statement from the book, The Science of Getting Rich, right?
Yeah.
So that was written in 1910 by Wallace D. Wattles, The Science of Getting Rich. And it's about the principle of how to get rich, basically. And that'll talk about having this vision, having this fixed purpose to the vision. And I'll read that twice a day, every day. I read the book every day. I've read it 9 times, and 8 times. I'm on the 9th read. And what that does is it's cementing the big picture. So like, if you're only going to prospect today because your boss has told you to prospect, then you're probably going to be sidetracked with trivial things like push notifications, right? But if you can connect that to something bigger, like you know, when I first started working with Asad years ago, Asad wrote a 5, you can ask him this because I can't ask him, but I think it was a 5-year goal, and I think he got there in 3 or 4 years or something. And he had this really clear picture of what he wanted his business to look like. And that's why the man's focused. That's why he invests in technology and mentors and coaches and advisors and team and building the business and expanding and all that. It's not because he fancies more floor space. It's because each of these things are going to get to the goal the man had in 5 years. So I know exactly where I want to be. I've got a plan. And so the first thing is you've got to do that. You know, most people don't get what they want because they haven't got a flipping clue. They want more money. Do you want more money, Stephen? Right, there's a £5. Are you happy? Well, no, I want to. You just said you want more money. I've just give you a £5. You should be happy because they're not clear. So you've got to prioritize this stuff and then build the big picture. Yeah. So you've got to get the. So I think by having the big picture, the purpose, where do you want to be? And then you've got to connect your daily action. So you're kind of trying to get your connection between your advanced thinking and your advanced action taking. And once you get personal thinking, personal action connected, it becomes easier. But you also need to think about 2 types of thinking. The first type of thinking is, I would argue, is low-level thinking, and it's called activity-based thinking. And activity-based thinking would be thinking about the 60 minutes of outbound calls prospecting. That would be the activity-based thinking. But if you can build a reflex to outcome-based thinking, which is what is the outcome of 60 minutes of prospecting, like generating some leads, I don't know, connecting with a couple who might put a couple of offers in. And then what would that be the outcome of? Well, then hit your KPI. And what would that be the outcome of? That might make it likely to advance in the business. And what would that be the outcome of? Well, then I could grow in the business and get an increased income. What would that be the outcome of? Well, I can start having better holidays and go to Butlins. I can go to flipping Mexico. Or I know at the minute you can't go anywhere, but you know, you get the point. So I think part of the challenge is that we think about the activity, not the outcome. And what you need to do, Stephen, is get everyone to reflex from activity to outcome. Like I had a race I was going to do, and it was early September. I was going to do the Paris 10. It's the British Army race down in Catterick. In the Paris, you've got to do 10 miles, carrying 35 pounds with food and with boots and long trousers in 1 hour 50. That's what they call a combat fitness test, right? So that race was happening in September. I always take August off. We were in Spain, a little place in Valencia, spent the month there. It was nice. I was there for 28 days. I trained 19 of the 28. It's not easy when there's like free-flowing lager and pizzas and Rioja and all that stuff and 37 degrees. But I had the outcome. The outcome was the race. Now, of course, because of the current situation, the race was cancelled. So it'd be very easy for me to let myself off the hook. But because I'd set the declaration and I had this thing called Faff, which is, have you heard of that, Stephen?
No.
Faff is fit as at 50. I'm not going to say the word, right? But you know what I mean. You know the word, right?
Yeah.
It begins with F, ends in K, right? So that was one of my goals at 50. So I knew this race was part of Faff, and I'd connected to the outcome, what I want to feel like when I reach Faff. And Faff had various criteria: sub 12% body fat, certain weight level, body mass, certain press up number at a certain time. And one of them was to run the race under 1 hour 50, 10 miles, 35 pound pack. But of course, the race was cancelled. So I thought, right, what do I do? Well, I thought, well, you can't let yourself off the hook because you've got the big purpose. You've said you've got to do it. So last weekend, get up sharp. I live in East Borden near the coast. So go to Whitburn on the coast. I thought, right, what I'll do is I'll run along the cliff tops for 5 mile and I'll run back 10 mile. I'll have to carry more than 35 pounds. I'm by myself. Shazza wouldn't get up. So I had to carry my own water and food. So I was carrying a bit more than 35 pounds. I thought, right, what I'll do is I'll test myself. I'll get to the turnaround point at 10 minutes, 55 seconds. The target's 11-minute miles, sub 11-minute miles. I thought if I get to 5 mile in 10:55, I can start, if I feel good, because I sometimes get carried away and start to feel sexy. I said, if I feel sexy, I'll start to bring the pace down and increase my speed coming back, right? So I get the halfway point, 10:55, mile 6. I thought, right, game time, right? Switch the face on, your race face goes on. I thought, right, mile 6, 10:36, mile 7, 10:24. I'm starting to feel sexy, right? I think I'm doing well here. Mile 8, 9:36, mile 9, 9:24, mile 10, Stephen, 9 minutes, 2 seconds, right? That's mile 10, running, boots, long trousers, 35 pound pack. Now, the point is, it'd be very easy for me to not do that. Nobody was there. Nobody was watching, right? It's flipping 7:30 in the morning. There's nobody about. I could have stayed in bed. I could have flipping watched 5 more episodes of Netflix the previous night. I could have had another bottle of Rioja. Mark May has given me 2 lovely bottles of Rioja, right? I could have had another bottle of Rioja, right? But because I had the bigger picture and I didn't think about just the activity and you know, I was in the hurt locker. Running back at pace it bloody hurts. It's not comfortable. You're not flipping doing a bit of blooming aerobics with a bit of flipping, you know, spandex on, right? This is flipping hard training, right? Not easy. But because I connected to the outcome and I knew what I would feel like if I did 1 hour 50, and that's what I connected. So when you lack discipline and you lack focus, it's because maybe you're just thinking of the activity, not the outcome. And you've got to think of the bigger picture. And if you want to write down 3 words for discipline, is discipline equals freedom. So the more disciplined you come, the more freedom you're going to have. Yeah.
Amazing.
People on this call, Ian White's a disciplined man. He has lovely freedom, right? He can free to drive a nice car. He can get an oil. He can do what he wants, right? He's got freedom because he's being disciplined. So the more discipline I've got, the more freedom I've got. And I can run around now. And we've got too many kids. Our kids are 27, 24, 21 and 7, right? I've got to be fit to run after my young daughter who's like flipping supremely, she's like the Tasmanian devil. I've got to be fit, you know, I've got a big picture.
Brilliant. Look, I'm really conscious of time. I don't know how much longer you've got. Can I ask a couple more questions or you got to go?
We'll go at half-past is the hard cut-off.
Okay, fine. Okay. So you mentioned 3 books. So you mentioned Crucial Conversations.
Yes.
The Sign of Getting Rich.
Science of Getting Rich. The Science of Getting Rich.
The Science of Getting Rich. Thank you. Yeah. And you mentioned one other at the start.
Never Eat Alone by Keith Ferrazzi.
Yeah. Okay. For other people watching?
Yeah.
What else would be in your top 5?
Top 5 would be Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
Yep.
Principles, Ray Dalio.
Yeah.
Love that. Love that. There's loads. Shoe Dog, if you want a story.
Yeah. Nike Boss, Phil Knight.
Absolutely superb. Do you know what I love as well? The little simple one, The 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. The 4 Agreements. a lovely little simple book to read.
Yeah.
I love the 4 Agreements. I love loads. I don't know, Magic of Thinking Big, Grow Rich While You Sleep. There's loads, you know. But I think principles, you should study print. Don't read it, study it. Principles is superb.
Okay, brilliant. Pete Wilkinson's 3 non-negotiables.
Non-negotiables. Punctuality if you're late. If we're going to start at a certain time, I'd like to start at that time. Not doing the thing you say you're going to do. I don't like that. And I can't stand people who make excuses. Gets right on the end of my. It does, like. I hate people who just don't take responsibility. Yeah. Take 100% responsibility for the thoughts you have, the actions you take, the results you get. It's up to you, man. Don't be making excuses. Jeez, man. There's businesses during this crisis are still performing. I've got some of them, you know, they're great. Flying, even during tough times. You know, there's plenty of reasons to make excuses, but you just got to, don't tell me what you can do, show me what you can. You know, it's just, people make excuses. They don't have long with me. Do you know what I started to do when they start making excuses?
Go on.
I started to mention the name of Biscuits in the conversations to see if they're still listening. You don't realise, I'll say, Stephen, I think unless we get the hobnobs aligned, you're not going to hit target. No, I know that, Pete. I think it comes down, you've got to make a big decision today. Is it either going to be sneakers or Mars bar? And they're going, no, I know, you're not even listening to us. So I've just mentioned Biscuits in the conversation because I'm thinking, you're out, mate, you're out of time. Simple as that.
Brilliant. If you were starting again, knowing what you know now, what would you do differently?
I would employ specialised knowledge earlier. I try to figure some things out myself, and I think I would have shortcutted it by just going to experts earlier. I do that now. It was a lesson I learned on hindsight, and I like to have learned it earlier. Okay. It's one of the messages in Think and Grow Rich. You don't have to know this stuff. You just deploy specialised knowledge. There's lots of guys on this call who know that they've got experts who advise. That's deploying specialised knowledge, and I would have done that sooner.
Okay. You have been a phenomenal guest. Your energy, your passion.
I want to do some press-ups now, run around the table, man. I'm getting excited now, man.
You've been an inspiration. So let me just go through and some of the comments that have come in.
Can you see me more? I'm consistent, Reclaro, like that?
We can talk about that in a sec. So this guy is just the most focused yet likable man on the planet. He's so much energy, it's inspiring. Lack of personal accountability in individuals supported by leadership skills that fail to hold people accountable is a recipe for mediocrity at best. Andrea, this is a great idea. I'm sure that is the idea about the return to work interview on a Monday. Peter Knight said in his email this week, ask how good you want to be and what are you prepared to do to be that good. It's easy to say that you want to be elite. Assad, I set a 5-year goal in 2015 and achieved all the goals in 4 years. Every time I speak or hear Pete speak, I realise that there is so much more to do. He's a beast. Even the stuff he does for fun makes me feel inadequate.
Do you know what? It's relevant to everyone. Do you know what I mean? I've been doing this for a while, and I like to test myself. If testing yourself is a flipping park run, then crack on and do that. I think the point is we have a duty to be our best. I think it's a duty as a human being to inspire others by being your best. And I think you just got to learn that lesson, and that's the lesson. So yeah, I might do stuff that, like, you know, and don't get me wrong, right? I do races and people kick my backside. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's fine. I'm just, as long as I'm competing, being the best I can be, you know, that's what's important. Being the
brilliant.
best.
Assad, absolutely brilliant as always. I've known Pete 5 years and still learn something new every time I hear him speak. Okay. So thank you all for watching. Really grateful. If you're watching it on replay, thanks a lot. Please give Peter loads of love, hearts, share it. I mean, there's so much gold out here. I'm going to put it on the YouTube channel, so please share that as well. Have a great Thursday afternoon. Next Tuesday, I have got Emma Vigus from MEO, and who runs a property group, Women in Property, that we'll be speaking to. Thanks again, and have a lovely afternoon.
Thank you, Stephen.